Hey everyone, welcome back to Miniature Painting 101, a series of videos where I teach you all about painting miniatures from start to finish and everything in between. And this is part 81, hair again. This time we're doing different colors of hair. From the previous one, we're doing black, gray, and white. So essentially we're doing shades of gray. It's all gonna be fun. So we'll start off with black hair. And black hair is an interesting one. So we'll be using this, of course, Space Wolves Marine, because that's what was requested for me. And I do what is asked, basically. So black is an interesting color because black is essentially dimensionless. So today we're going to use black as the base color and then build up some shades of gray. And then a little bit different from our normal method, we're going to highlight up first and then bring it down if you want. It's an optional step with non-oil. So we'll start with ABADDON black, and as I mentioned, ABADDON black is a dimensionless color because you can't really shade black if you don't want. You can't go more black than black. So we're going to start off with black and then highlight up with dark grays. And of course, I thinned it down as always with some acrylic medium. That way, it goes on nice and thin, doesn't obscure any of the nice details. The keys, as I said, hair is texture and tones. So we're going to build up some shades of gray and keep that texture to that hair. So we'll use the ABADDON black and get that nice beard and hair covered in the ABADDON black. Pretty straightforward. I'm probably going to do skin tones in a future video, so that's why I'm not painting the skin right now. And now we're going to use gray liner, which is a very dark matte gray, and we're just essentially doing overbrush, a very strong overbrush of gray liner. So as you can see here, it just builds up really dark matte gray tones over the black, but it still appears black, and that's the key for black hair. You just want to build up some slight tonal variation, because that way it doesn't look very boring. Now it's more interesting, has some texture to it, and now we're just going to add a little bit of ADMINISTRATUM gray to the gray liner. So now it's still a pretty dark matte gray. And once again, I'll just do a very quick edge highlight over certain edges, the ones that are appearing more more vertically. And just building up some more texture to the hair. As you can see, it's still a pretty dark matte gray color. And you can pretty much finish here if you want. It is nice, it has some texture, but what I like to do is tone it down a little bit for the highlights and then just make it more dark, but still has some good definition. Is after this, I like to hit it with a non-oil shading, which is actually almost acts like a glaze in this sense. So we're going to apply the non-oil over it, and what it does is it tones down the grays that we just built up, and it really blends together the tones, so it'll have some gray hairs that will pop and still stand out, but in the end it'll be a bit darker and have more of a black tone to it, but still be interesting. So I just took it straight from the bottle and applied it to this part, and now we're done. So as you can see here, the black hair is done, but you can clearly see some definition to it. You can clearly see the strands of hair, but it's not just black and boring. And that's the key to black hair. Now it's time to do gray hair, one tone lighter. So we're going to use some of the same colors, and we're using, once again, a Space Marine, a Space Wolf. He's the sergeant of the Gray Hunters. We'll use three colors: ADMINISTRATUM Gray, non-oil, and White Scar in combination with the ADMINISTRATUM Gray. So this one's more simple. We're going to use ADMINISTRATUM Gray first and build up some gray, of course. So I thinned it down slightly and applied it to all the hair. It looks kind of fun with painting the hair around the face, but not the face itself. Looks interesting. And as before, just make sure you get a nice solid coat over these areas and not obscure any detail by adding a little bit of thinner medium to the gray. ADMINISTRATUM Gray is a mid-tone gray, so as you can see, it's pretty light, but it is a good. I like to, whenever I do gray, I like to do the mid-tone grays personally. You can apply this method to a darker gray if you wish. And when that was completely dry and done, it's time to give it a shade. So I took the non-oil and I took it from the bottle because I really wanted to build some tones to this gray, and I applied it then to the entire face. And as you can see, it does tone, it really does darken it significantly. and give it that definition. Especially these models, all that nice braiding on the front of the face and the hair as well. You really want to get that texture in the hair because that's the sculptors worked hard to get the nice detail on it. You got to keep them. And now we're just going to do a quick overbrush. You can also do a dry brush if you want a more dusted appearance, but I just like doing an overbrush, which picks up all the raised areas, and that way you can really see that braided appearance on the front, and it really has the nice hair on the top. So we're first going to do this in 2 steps. First one with Administratum gray, just by itself, and then we're going to add a little bit of white scar into the mix, making it a lighter gray, and then doing the same thing with that again. So now we're just added a little bit more white scars into it, and just building up once again the very tops of the hair. That way there's a little bit more tonal variation, and then tops as you can see the hair there, and then a little bit at the base of the beard strands. And that's it. That's how you paint a gray hair. Not too hard at all. As you see, good texture, and it's definitely gray. And finally, white hair, which once again, we'll mix it up a little bit. So once again, a gray hunter, as requested by you. And we'll be using 3 colors for this one. Administratum gray to build a foundation, to do the work for us. White scar over the Administratum gray, and then we're gonna use a really nice soft body black, which is it's a more tone, it's a bit lighter of a black. You know, it's almost like if you add water to non-oil, and it's by Secret Weapon. So we'll start off by giving the hair a base coating of Administratum gray. We're letting the Administratum gray do the work for us. We don't want to build up so many thin coats of white. It's much easier to just go over a light gray and let the light gray do the foundation work for you. That way you can just easily build the white on top of the Administratum gray. Because white doesn't go over much with ease. So as you can see, as always, I thinned down my Administratum gray with some medium. And I painted the sideburns as well. And I'm going to do the final step in a couple ways I'll show you. But then I used white scar, and I just did a white scar over the Administratum gray. So now, as you can see, it's thinned down as well, but it goes over really nicely and gives great coverage over the gray. And then when that was dry, it's time to take the soft body black and apply it. Now there's 2 ways to apply the soft body black, and I'll show it in 2 different ways. Well, I'll essentially show the results of one of the 2 different ways after this. As you can see, I'm just making sure to build up the nice solid white foundation before proceeding to the shading. Now I'm going to take the soft body black. The cool thing about soft body black is the surface tension of it. You can apply it, and as you can see, it goes on really heavily. But if you just dry off your brush or take a nice clean brush, you can easily remove almost all of that excess soft body black. And it comes off quite nicely and just leaves in the recesses, and it's in great shape. Now it's not as defined. So what I'm going to do a little heavier on the top part of the head, as you can see here. But then for the sideburns and the one ponytail, I'm going to remove most of it out of the recesses with just a dry brush after applying it into the recesses. So that way it's nice and subtle on the sideburns and the hair, and then it's a bit darker on the top. But then it's pretty easy. Then afterwards, just take your white scars again and build back up those tones. But because you use soft body black as opposed to non-oil, it's going to be much easier to build back those tones. And then you get a really nice, as I said, you get a nice definition. And even though there's a really dark gray in the recesses, people will still see white. It just looks like dirty white with texture. And that's what you're going for in an apocalyptic world. You're going for dirty white hair because that's what they would look like. So as you see, I'm just doing a quick overbrush and building up those tones again of white with thinned down white scars. But it's quite easy to do thanks to soft body black. And you clearly see white still. So here's white hair. And that's it in a nutshell. But you can do it, I recommend doing it lightly with the soft body black as opposed to heavy, which is the top part, but it still looks good with the heavy as well. Up to you. And that's how you do it. So that's how you do black hair, gray hair, and white hair. Pretty straightforward stuff, and I really hope you enjoyed it and learned a little bit about painting textures of hair on models. So as always, thank you so much for watching this episode of Miniature Painting 101. I really hope you enjoyed it. And stay tuned for part 82, next week's episode, which is just around the corner. But if you don't want to wait for next week, check out the Warp. Click on the link below for a free 14-day trial to my other premium YouTube channel, where not only we get to see the next 6 months worth of Miniature Painting 101 episodes before everyone else, you'll get to see over 60 start-to-finish painting tutorials, an Airbrush 101 series, battle reports, face-off episodes, just some awesome wargaming content. So go ahead and check out the Warp. I think you'll love it. So stay tuned for next week's episode. Until next time, this is Jay saying, happy painting, everyone.